How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be talking about floating plants. In my opinion, floating plants are underused and underappreciated in planted tanks, and hopefully once you've seen this you'll consider getting some yourself. Floating plants have great benefits to your tank. They'll remove nitrates and phosphates from the water, which is what they primarily feed on. They'll give shade to plants in your tank that prefer that little bit of shade rather than bright light. They will help oxygenate your water, and to be honest, I think they look really good with an open top tank. The first one I'm going to talk about is Frogbit. It's got very large leaves, one of the larger floating plants you can get. The leaves themselves are quite thick. They've got like these air cells underneath which help it to float, and it has one of the longer root structures of floating plants, more suited for the deeper tank rather than the small shallow tanks. It spreads by way of runners, which I'll try and hook this one up so you can see it. There's a runner there. It does spread quite fast, and eventually the runners will break off, make new plants of their own, and they'll keep spreading. What I'll do, I'll put that back in the tank and I will show you the root structure of that soon. The next one I want to talk about is water lettuce. This grows in a spiral pattern, and again it's one of the larger floating plants. It's a very thin leaf plant, and it's got like very tiny hairs on the surface of the leaves. Its root structure is about the same size eventually as the Frogbit, so really more suited for the deeper tanks. Again, this spreads by way of runners. You can see a larger plant coming off there, and there's a small one coming off just here. The root structure itself gets a little bit wider than the Frogbit. It tends to bush up a little bit, but a very beautiful plant. As I say, very fast spreading, so you do need to keep it in check. This is regarded as a weed in many parts of America, and there's a bit of a problem with it overtaking the water surface on lakes and streams and that sort of thing, and they're trying to reduce the amount of spread using, I think, some kind of weevil. The larvae eat into the plant, so you do have to be really careful when disposing of these. Don't just go chucking them into any stream. Try to shred them up and you put them in your compost, if anything. I'll put that back in the tank now, and then I'll show you the root structure of that soon. The next one I want to talk about is this little beauty. This is very fast spreading, a lot faster than the others in my opinion, and this is Salvinia Natans. It's classed as a fern, I believe, just due to the way that it spreads. It tends to grow and spread in a straight line, and then what happens is the parts get broken apart, and then they'll just carry on spreading and spreading. Again, this is about medium size. I mean, the leaves will get probably maybe double the size of that. Again, they're covered in very fine hairs. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. These aren't really suitable for tanks with hang-on filters, because as soon as you get some of this going underneath the water that drops into the tank, it tends to push them under the surface, and then gets tangled up in your plants, and then they just rot. This is more suited if you've got an internal filter, It's got the shortest root structure of the floating plants. They only get to about 1 inch long, 1.5 inches at the most, so they're ideally suitable for the shallow tanks, but it does spread very fast, so you really do need to keep it in check, because you'll have the benefit of giving shade to certain areas of the tank, but once it covers the whole surface, it blocks a good majority of the light to the tank, so obviously the light doesn't penetrate to the bottom, so just keep it in check. Again, I'll put these in and I'll show you a close-up of the root structures. Okay, here you can see the root structure of the water lettuce. It's got a very bushy root system. At the moment it's not as long as the Frogbit. You can see it's a perfect place for fry to hide away. You'll get shrimp hanging onto the bottom, giving it a good old clean. The roots are covered in fine hair-like roots, which get quite long, which cause the bushiness. On the right hand side you can see the runner coming off with another small water lettuce on it. That'll eventually break off, and both plants will carry on growing and spreading. Quite a fast spreader, not the fastest of the three. I think the Salvinia Natans is the fastest of the three, but still will spread quite fast. You've got the Frogbit, which is thicker, longer roots. At the moment the main root on this is about 4 inches long, and you can see the other roots start to make their way down, and you can see a runner on the left hand side making its way out. These are covered in a fine hair root system going down those big roots. They don't get anywhere near as long as what's on the dwarf, on the water lettuce, sorry, but they are still there, and again it will remove the nitrates and phosphates from the water and help oxygenate. The Salvinia Natans, there's the root structure on that. I'm going to move it back into the screen. Again, these are very small roots, as I said, 1 inch to 1.5 inches long, perfect for shallow tanks, and again you'll find shrimp hanging onto the bottom of these, giving them a good old clean. All three water plants that obviously floating on the surface will remove the nitrates and phosphates. They'll all create shade, and they all grow fast, this one being the fastest of the lot, I believe. And I don't know if you can get shots of why it's not really suitable when you've got a hang-on filter to have Salvinia Natans, because as soon as they get underneath the water flow, they get sucked up. They get sucked down and get tangled up in the plants. Well, I hope that's given you an insight into floating plants, and maybe something you'd like to try if you don't use them already at the moment. Personally, my favourite is the Frogbit. I just love the look of the leaves on the surface. Second, I would say, is the water lettuce, because of the root structure. I love that bushy root look when you're viewing the tank from the front. And then obviously my third favourite, well, I should say loser out of the three, is the Salvinia Natans, but only because it's not really suitable for this tank with a hang-on filter. Normally the Salvinia Natans is in my 4-foot tank, which I've got downstairs, but I've just brought it up to show you all three together. So I hope that's helped you out a little bit, and I'll try and do some more videos of other plants I use, and the benefits I think they give. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up and comment. It's your comments I want the most. I love reading people's comments on the videos, good or bad, I don't mind, but please keep them coming. So thank you very much everyone, and take care.